I had some bouts of insomnia when I
Because of
traveled
your travel, yeah.
because I can't be sure of the quality or how the foods are prepared. And I do believe that the insomnia had something to do with seed oils. And so I think I might experiment, Rose, on
Okay.
myself. And I think I have bought it. I'm waiting for it to get delivered. And I'm going on to Alaska in August. And on that trip, if, I think I will have a little bit of this after my meal in the evening if I can't be sure that they haven't, you know, used something that could keep me up. So I'm just going to do a little experiment because I research. It's very
Mm,
safe. It's very
okay.
well, and I'm buying it from doctors. So
Buying it not from Amazon,
right,
right?
right.
Hi, friends. Hi, friends. Hi, friends. This is Rose AJ with the Carnivore Connection. Y'all, look, we are live. There are no retakes when we're doing lives, right? So today is Monday, July 1st. And with me today is Miss Kim Shine from kimshine.org. And Carnivore Connection is where soulful and heartfelt conversations take place. And today, what we'll actually be discussing in a very brief overview is what led each one of us to carnivore and why we are choosing to stay carnivore for whatever length of time we're choosing to stay carnivore, and two specific tips that we've thought of separately for women that are over 50 on how to get started with the carnivore diet and grounding meat, and just a couple of random fun facts. So, Kim, tell me, how are you doing today, girl?
Oh, I'm good. I just got out in the sun for a few minutes to
Mhm,
get my vitamin D.
mhm.
So always feel good when the sun's out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other,
So what about your dairy and your stevia, dealio? You were a couple of days in last week when we talked. How is that going for
yes,
you?
it's going great. I am still 100% stevia free.
Mhm.
I am, daily dairy free.
Uh-huh.
I do have to dip these really spicy sausages we have
Oh,
into a tiny little bit of sour cream. But
oh,
I'm getting the results I wanted from dropping those uh, 2 items. The scale, I've set my chronometer
uh-huh.
to half a pound a week,
A
like
half a pound.
under eat to lose half a pound a week. And
Okay.
when I got on the scale last Wednesday, it was 1.2 pounds. So not even trying,
Down? Down?
yeah,
Good
down.
for you.
Yeah, and
Yes. Yes.
so I really do think there's something to the sweet flavor of stevia telling the
Mhm.
body to release insulin, and then the insulin tells the body to store fat. And, milk is it's designed to help
Mhm.
animals put on weight. So
Yeah. Yeah,
just
those casomorphins, right?
yeah, so being
Yeah.
free of those is working. It's working good.
Well, good. So, do you think you're going to go day by day, which is always what I like to ask people, day by day, or are you going to do it for a specific window and then revert back and see what happens?
Yes, I think the plan right now is I do everything one day at a time,
Hmm.
but I've made a commitment
Hmm.
to at least do the month of July, stay super clean, at least through the month of July,
Okay.
and then I will reassess. But I mean, I'm not missing it, so I don't see why I would reintroduce it.
Okay.
Um, but down the line I may want to. But no, I feel pretty great. I've even gotten used to my raw element,
Okay.
my
Okay.
seawater tasting element. But
Yeah.
I actually like it almost as much as the stevia version now.
Well, good. And then you were also, if I remember correctly, drinking the LMNT like throughout the day, just not during like with your meals, right? So you might have been.
Yeah, I seem to be, and I don't know how Bella goes, so extremely salt free. I
Yeah.
seem to be one of these people that needs salt.
Yeah.
I do get leveling. a consistency of my energy when
Mhm.
I have enough sodium in my diet. And so what I do is I have a couple morning drinks, just some weak tea, and a magnesium drink that I drink in the morning. And then after that, I will mix up a quart of the one pouch of Element into a quart
Okay.
of ice water, and then
Okay.
I will sip on that throughout the
Okay.
day. Like I'm almost finished with it now. I have like one sip left. Um, but yeah, that just seems to give me a little consistent energy
Mhm.
flow.
Okay.
Because I also salt my meat liberally.
I
So
know that's right. Okay, I got to have some flavor. So let me see if I understood you because I might have just buzzed out for a minute. You were drinking the flavored LMNT in the same capacity where you were sipping on it with ice water throughout maybe an hour or two stretch, but it was not with a meal.
correct. Yeah, I have to
Okay.
have a little bit of fluid near me
Mhm.
when I'm eating because I have one of the side effects of my extreme perimenopause and this
Mhm.
estrogen dominance is like
Mhm.
sometimes it's a little hard for me to swallow unless
Okay.
it's a really fatty cut of meat.
Mhm.
So I like to have a little bit of water where I can sip and lubricate my throat a little bit. But yeah, I try not to do lot of fluids with each meal because I feel like
Okay.
it dilutes the stomach acid and
Yeah.
works against itself. But I always have a water bottle, like this is just straight up ice water, but I like to always have one. I enjoy water.
So what I was going to hit on, Kim, was is that if you were drinking your LMNT outside of your meal times, that flavor, that stevia, that sweetness is causing an insulin response because your body is expecting fuel to come in some capacity, and because it wasn't, it may have been defeating what you were trying to do. So that's what I wanted to point out to people that
Okay.
it's not necessarily that stevia won't work for them, but cutting it out and doing a trial and error is a good thing. But even if you introduced the LMNT back in, maybe having it within your meal window
Oh, right,
would probably help. Um, but I don't know. You would have to do that as an experiment of one, right?
right,
So, so this week, what I've been doing, Kim, is catching up on rest, which I am not good at doing, but I've been catching up on rest. I think just clearing the house, and that'll probably be going on for several more weeks. Clearing the house as far as my checklist and stuff, and my mixed fit classes are going swimmingly well. And I have gone back to using via packets probably in the last 3 or 4 weeks because I'm trying to roll back my coffee consumption. And the reason I want to do the via packs is because there are about 150 milligrams of caffeine per. And I figure if I do four of those, two per cup, it's strong enough for me. Two before 12, I'm good. But we'll see. We'll see. Kinda like you. It's an experiment. I'm not dedicated to it, okay? Because I bought them. They're on sale at Costco for $5 off. I bought the maximum amount, and I'm trying to recruit more people to get them for me before they go off sale. But that's what's going on this week other than the beautiful Pacific Northwest sun and, all that good stuff. So, shall we get into the gist of what we're gonna talk about today?
sure, yeah,
Okay. So why don't you go first, Kim, with I know your story, but if you just give the high level overview of it and why you are choosing at this time, maybe not a lifetime, but at this time to stay carnivore, that would be great.
okay, yes. Well, I have a history of standard American diet growing up, yo-yo dieting, and then tragically, around 2010, I got into vegetarian vegan eating, which left me, nutritionally bankrupt as I went into perimenopause and the sudden tragic loss of my mother. So the grief process, which was super intense, and it drained every last ounce of energy out of my body. And this was all at the time that my body needed to be able to, my adrenal glands specifically needed to be able to make enough progesterone to balance out the wacky, wacky estrogen spikes that happen in perimenopause. And I just could, my body just couldn't do it. It was just cortisol through the roof, and estrogen dominance, histamine intolerance, just a series of, which it just resulted in constant high anxiety and panic attacks. So I fortunately found progesterone cream, which immediately helped, and then it didn't help like enough because I mean I'd have to be swimming in it all day long. So I was searching for other solutions, and one of the blogs, wonderful blogs I went to, where the women were sharing their experiences with this, first of all, thank God, I thought I was crazy. I was the only one going through this, but no, lots of women go through what I went through, unfortunately. But anyway, they said, if the progesterone isn't enough, you may have to change your diet. And they were saying paleo. So first I went paleo, and then some of the women said, no, I paleo doesn't work either for me. I had to go keto. So I thought, okay, I'm willing to do anything to help, mitigate this progesterone use because it's expensive. So I decided to try keto in 2019, and it worked marvelously. I mean, another huge bump up. Obviously, I needed those good fats for hormone production. Like the wonderful thing about progesterone cream, by the way, though, is you can use a ton of it, and it won't tell your body not to make it.
Oh,
So your body will still make progesterone, prolifically, even if you're supplementing, which is not true with other hormones, by the way. But anyway, so keto worked to a point, but there was just some nagging stuff that wasn't resolved with keto. Just an underlying fatigue and constipation were the two big ones that I just could not solve. And I just happened to find a YouTube video from Dr. Berg, who said, if keto's not doing everything you want, try carnivore. And I thought, I'd heard about carnivore. Obviously, the minute you get into the keto space, you hear about these wacky people that are just eating meat. But
yeah.
to have Dr. Berg like talk more or less like positively about what at least a trial in carnivore
Mhm.
could reveal was motivational, and I decided right then and there I'm going to do it. and,
Okay. Okay.
and that was February 2024, and I have been doing it ever since. And I tell you what, um, I am the the first person to say, "Wow,
Yeah.
wow, I cannot believe the difference." And
Right.
as I've said, I was a really clean keto. I wasn't, eating the keto-y crap treats or anything. I was so it's just the vegetables alone that were holding me back. So that's my story.
All right. So, what keeps you on the carnivore way of life or keeps you chasing the carnivore lifestyle?
I just want to feel my best. I mean,
Mhm.
after spending what seemed like, I mean, it was a solid, my mom died in 2016. There was a year of grief. And then I started having the panic attacks in the end of 2017. So, and then, you know, it was like 2 or 3 years before I really felt like myself. And then another, you know, 2 years of trying to figure out this fatigue and to have it resolved. I tell you, Rose, within a few days of carnivore, the fatigue was resolved and it's
Nice.
never ever come back. And so that tells me that I need to do this uh, for the long haul because I don't know the damage I did over the years. The 10 year or you know, 8 or 9 years of vegan, vegetarian, and
Mhm.
then the rest of my life being standard American diet. So I want the end of my life. I want the last third or half or quarter,
Yeah.
however much I have left. I want it to be the absolute best. So
Right.
that's what keeps me committed to this.
Okay.
And just like I said, even with the marvelous results of carnivore,
Mhm.
I'm even willing to give up, the tiny little bit of stevia or the tiny little
Yeah.
bit of milk just to get like maximum results, right? Of
Yeah.
feeling amazing.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that. So yeah, so my story, most of you guys probably already know, so I'm only going to give it to you in three sentences. 2018, I had hit rock bottom, was at my wits' end, decided to leave the industry that I was in, spent 3, 4 years focusing on myself, my well-being while going through perimenopause, questioning life as far as the quality of my life. Got introduced to exogenous ketones in June of 2018, but I did not start a new, there was a lot of contemplation, a lot of research, yada, yada, yada. Really, just basically a lot of fucking procrastination, y'all, right? So, December 2nd, 2018, I took a deep dive. I did everything haphazardly. I kept binging, kept being triggered. And in January of 2020, went carnivore, and long story short, I arrived at Carnivore, got the results that I was looking for. I have a peace of mind. My mental health is spot on. I have optimal levels of energy, and I'm here to stay. I'm here to stay. I'm fully invested. I dibbled and dabbled back and forth. January 1st of 2021 through June of 2021, trying to reintroduce foods from the ketogenic diet because I felt as though I should have a broader palette of food, more variety, but it's I really have freedom with knowing that just meat based is what's up for me, right? Is just there's I mean, people say that there's so much restriction when you follow elimination diets or protocols, but I find so much freedom because my mental health is not being tied up. I'm not being consumed with when am I going to cook, when am I going to eat, when a meal only takes 10 minutes or less for me to cook now, right? So that's where I'm at with that. And my heart and my conscious and my internal drive is to help women that are over 50 find food freedom, to get off of the blood sugar roller coaster. And I got some things in store for you guys that are coming up this fall. So I'll just drop it there and leave it there for a minute. But Kim, can you give me two specific tips that you'd like to share with ladies that are specifically 50 and older? Because, hey, we're well past 50. So maybe something that you've learned that maybe you can lend that to someone that's starting, or two specific things that you know will help them regardless of their background.
Well, like I alluded to earlier, I wouldn't be here and sane if I hadn't like been on the internet trying to find women like me. And so I would say don't sit alone with what's going on. Get out onto the internet and find, there's all kinds of, doctors that have websites that talk about, menopause. And then in
Mhm.
there are women like us who are going through uh, the, the it's almost inevitable that we're going to have these negative repercussions at this time of life because of how we live today. There's so many um, xenoestrogens in the water, in the air we breathe, in the products we wear, the cars we sit in. Then there's the phytoestrogens if you're keto, paleo, and still eating vegetables. You're getting phytoestrogens that can imbalance things. And so I don't know, in 100 years ago, 150 years ago, a Native American woman probably didn't even blink an eyelash at menopause, right? Because she's grounded to the earth. She's got sun on her face. She's eating clean food. She doesn't have any plastics in her environment. So we are unfortunately in a toxic world. And so get with the rest of the women that are going through this because you're going to get tips and tricks that work for
Mhm.
you. Not everything worked for me, but a lot of it did. And I just was constantly out there. And then I was adding my voice to the mix. It gives me so much hope to just be with women that I'll never meet, right? I just know their handle on a comment. that they posted, but they pour their heart out and they share their experience. And so I would say tip number 1 is find a group of women, like, if it's a YouTube doctor that talks about menopause, and then spend time in the comments with those women. Uh, but for me, it was just basically a website. Um, and then tip number 2 would be, you know, don't give up, never stop searching. I had to go to a lot of doctors, and it was very discouraging when there was no answer, but I just kept going. Okay, all right, well, let's go to the next doctor. Let's, try the next thing, because there's some kind of magic in it, even though it's frustrating, I'm like, why, universe, would you put me through this much work to finally get the solution? But now I look back and I realize that all of those different doctors gave me something to work on that has helped. It didn't they didn't give me the magic bullet that solved all the problems, but each one of them gave me a technique that has helped tremendously. So when you add them all up, it's wonderful. But the tendency is, well, I'm going to go to one doctor. They can't figure it out. I'll just take their pill, and even though it doesn't fix it, I'll it's half as bad. No, you can feel like $1,000,000. You can regain absolutely all of your energy, all of your joy, all of your strength. Uh, but it's gonna take time, and because everybody's journey is different. But I'd say don't give up, and keep searching until you find. Of course, the shortcut is carnivore.
Right. Thank you for that, Kim. That was awesome. Um, so for me, my two biggest points for women, just in general, but specifically over 50, is to really think about your why. Why do you need to do a dietary protocol change? Why? How is it going to impact you from day to day, let alone 6 months from now, right? So for most of us, or for I should say for myself, it's because I was going cray to the cray. I was gaining weight. I was inflamed. I had my moods were up and down, and it wasn't necessarily my mental health that was causing the mood swings. It was the sugar, the roller coaster, the blood sugar roller coaster. So when you figure out what your why is and you can be committed to that for 30 days, 2 weeks, whatever it is, I want you to realize that your why can change from day to day, month to month, but your core why needs to remain the same, right? And everything that springs out of that, it's okay to flex. Some days I just want to do it for my health. Other days I need to lose 50 pounds. Other days is because I want to be around for my grandchildren, whatever it is. But really think about why you're choosing to do this, right? And then, like Kim, like you said, do your research. Do your research. YouTube, it's like a university, a free university, or if you're a paid subscriber or whatever it's called, like I am. What is it called? Is it a paid subscription? Yeah, paid
Yeah,
subscription.
paid
And then,
subscription, and then you don't
yes,
have commercials.
you don't have commercials, but this is what I want to kind of warn you on. If you do pull up carnivore, you do pull up the ketogenic diet or whatever you're looking for, YouTube is going to offer you 10, 12 different, creators, content creators. But what I want you to do is to really focus on maybe two or three voices in the midst, voices that you trust, that have said the repeated same things, maybe in different ways, but there's truth, or maybe you resonate with them because they're from the South, or whatever the reason is, or because they're African American and they're the same age as you. Whatever the reason is, just hone in on two or three creators to get you started. Don't sit and overwhelm when YouTube is sending 15 different creators your way. Just pick two or three, stick with them, read a book or two, and just kind of keep your bubble really small. And like Kim said, get in the comments, get to know people, because that's where their truth really is. They're sharing their stories in the comments. But don't let it overwhelm you, right? And also have patience, because what we want We want it today. We want it today. And the results might not show up for weeks to come. So you have to have patience, do your research, and really hone in on what your why is. And what's your backup plan? Is there going to be a plan B, or is it only plan A, pedal to the metal for 24 days or 30 days, whatever your commitment is? Just make sure you're committed to you and following through with that. Do you have anything else on that, Kim?
No, I think,
No.
between you and I,
Yeah.
yeah, that's the plan. That is the
Mhm.
plan.
All right. So, how about if we move on to some products, tips, or tricks? So, you recommend, okay, so a couple of conversations that I've had with a couple of different people talking about grounding or earthing. Let me take that back because grounding and earthing are two different things.
Right.
So, grounding and earthing and hugging a tree. So, this came up with Amy last week. And then the week before that, somebody that I was talking to, interviewing, was talking about she's in a wheelchair, but she goes out and sits in the sun and puts her feet on the ground. I was like, Rose, where have you been? Okay. And it's probably a black girl thing with me anyway, right? So I'm like, okay, let me catch on because I always like learning new things. So Kim had recommended a grounding mat. And so I went and watched Earthing the movie.
Yes.
And I read the directions for this earthing mat. And y'all, I got it on Thursday. And my intent was to do it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday before we got on this call. But I only did it Saturday and Sunday for 30 minutes each. And Kim, if you want to explain what earthing actually is, and then I'll follow up with what grounding is.
Oh, okay. So there are negative ions emitted from the planet, and all animals and plant life really um, has been designed in that system. And we have artificially separated ourselves from that system. We're animals, we are animals, and we have separated ourselves from that system with, wood floors, rubber tennis shoes. Um, Even 100 years ago, most shoes were sold with leather, and leather will let those ions through. And people were wearing like natural wool socks, no synthetics.
Mhm.
So, so it's really like 1950, I think, was the when the first synthetic rubber tennis shoe came out. And so essentially, we are no longer in touch with those negative ions coming up through the ground that are supposed to, what they do in our body is they immediately surge through our body, and they sort of glom on to free radicals, and they lend molecules to our chemical processes in our body that help keep us healthy and balanced. And so um, it's very challenging in the Pacific Northwest to walk around for 40. Basically, they say if you can get your feet on the ground for 45 minutes a day, you'll be completely balanced and cleansed. Who has time to walk around barefoot outside in the ground for 45 minutes? And B, in the Pacific Northwest and many parts of the world, it's practically impossible for 6, 8 months a year. So there's this wonderful people that have invented these mats that basically plug into your grounding hole in your electrical system in your house, which, if you know anything about electrical systems, that wire from that hole represents, that goes all the way through your house down into the ground. That
Mhm.
there is a grounding. But you can't pass an inspection without a properly grounded electrical system, and so it works. The negative ions come up through through the ground, through the wire, through your house, out through there, and then in through the wire that plugs to the mat. And the mat is basically got a conductive surface. And so there's little systems that test this, but I will tell you that
Yeah.
I have proof it works. Not
Oh.
only not only from my own experience, but my husband, who's a normal male who's sort of skeptical and grumpy and resistant,
Yeah.
he's seen me doing this earthing thing forever, right? Well, a few months ago, he was complaining and complaining about this pain and ache in his joints. And I said, "Well, why don't you try grounding? You're sitting there on the recliner for a couple hours every night. Let's put a mat on there." And,
Okay.
I bought him that mat that I sent you,
Yeah.
and he put it on the footrest of his
Mhm.
recliner, and he put his bare calf on there, and within like 2 days, he goes, "I cannot believe it, but all those aches and pains are gone."
Nice.
This was like 10 months ago or something.
Mm.
And so, I said, "Well, would you like me to buy you some grounding or, earthing sheets? Because you can do the same thing. You can buy
Uh-huh.
a fitted sheet that has silver in it, which conducts the negative ions, and it plugs into the wall too." So he said, "Yes." And so he's been sleeping and then I just used the pad because 'cause I'm
Yeah.
lazy, and
Yeah.
I don't wanna spend the money on a so I just use the pad, but, yeah, so it works, and, yeah, it's a complement to everything else we do, right? The
Mhm.
exercise,
Mhm.
the sun in your eyes first thing in the morning, it all of it works together to make us a whole healthy animal.
Well, this is what I was gonna say. So, they're saying that the indirect contact can be done, like you mentioned, through grounding mats, blankets, sheets, and whatnot. So I did it for 2 days, 30 minutes each, and I have to say that I have not observed any differences, but that does not mean that there haven't been any differences, right? So, and grounding or earthing is supposed to help with pain, stress, inflammation, and improve blood flow. So, I'm going to keep doing 30 minutes because, y'all, 30 minutes seems like a long time, but it's actually not. Like Kim's husband sitting in his recliner and getting TV or reading in, he's earthing in bed, or I'm sorry, grounding in bed and whatnot. I just have to be committed to finding a spot to put the
Yeah.
mat and using that on a routine. Even while I'm eating dinner, maybe while I'm eating my 1 meal a day, I'll plug it in
Yep,
because my feet are touching the floor at the table. There,
exactly.
problem solved. Yeah,
And then you can do it when you're at the computer too, because then
yeah,
it will actually counteract all the EMFs you're getting from the
yeah,
monitors in the computer.
okay. Well, that's a good tip too.
That's
So, y'all, this mat can be found on Amazon. I can include it in the show notes. Is it Ookla or Hoopla? What?
I think it's Hoopla.
Yeah, Hoopla, and it's about $25. I think it's under $30 is what I paid for it. So, that is a good product to try. So, have
Yeah.
you tried any other products this week, Kim?
Uh,
Anything new?
no, no, just a new thing I've decided to do. I've been buying my hamburger in those square packages, and then I prepare them ahead of time and have them in the fridge. And I decided that I'm going to switch to frozen patties.
Oh,
It's just slightly more expensive, but, I think that taking a frozen patty and cooking it and eating it is going to just eliminate the risk of histamines. Since I know I've had in the past a history of histamine intolerance, I think it just behooves me. So that's something I'm gonna try, uh, and, it also because gonna defrost my freezer on Friday. So so I gotta use up some stuff. But, so no new, products or foods,
okay.
um, but I do wanna talk at the end, if we have time, about methylene blue.
Okay. So, well, we should have time because it's only
Okay.
3:33. But y'all get this, I've always used, frozen hamburger patties. I'm a Kirkland brand queen, Costco queen, okay? So that's all I've used, and actually, Kim, so maybe about 3 months ago, because I used to buy the 3rd,
Yeah,
the 3rd
5 ounce.
pound
Yep,
size burger, and I was like, "Rose, 3 of those patties, yada," but anyway, whatever. So I was hooked on them because they taste juicier,
they're
and
good.
so I bought some of the quarter pounders, and this is what I did to switch my game up. I had to do 2 quarter pounder patties and 2 third pound patties, just kind of play it on my mind and whatnot. Y'all, it took about 3 months for me to switch over completely just to quarter pound patties. But after I finish my stash, I might go back to the third pound. Because they just bigger, meatier, and juicier. So, but anyway, I always do frozen patties because they're easy. They're easy. So, Kim, before we move on to a random fact, and y'all, what I did was is I thought of how I wanted the outline of today's conversation to go, and I just sent Kim like a really brief, maybe 2 minute read, if that, maybe 30 seconds
Mhm.
read to make sure that we were, on the same frequency and it was all good. So I tend to write my stuff out because I get distracted very easily. But Kim, last week we discussed intermittent fasting. Like I believe in it like carnivore for myself and anybody else that wants to get on that train. And you discussed how you do your thing and how it may be more damaging to you at the health level that you're at now versus in the future. And we talked about maybe some variances that you could try in the future when you were up
Mhm.
to it or if you ever felt up to it. But the other side of intermittent fasting for someone who is just beginning, um, I didn't do this because I was so busy binging. So it might have counted, but it didn't because I didn't get that out of my system because I was still being triggered. But Kim, can we talk about priming for a minute? There are
Sure.
a lot of coaches, there's a lot of programs that are out there that talk about priming as a method for starting carnivore. And it's essentially where you're eating all the meat, all that you can till you are, I want to say, overfull, overfed to where there's no room for anything else, right? And so you do this for several weeks so you don't feel restricted. Your body gets its nutritional levels back up to wherever it should be. You're not starving anymore. And it's a 3 week protocol, whereas the first week, you eat 3 square meals, you have 3 snacks, and you eat until you're satiated, right? And then week 2 is 3 solid meals where you're eating till you're full. Thanksgiving full, as some of them said, with no snacks. Week 3, you're down to about 2 meals. And if you're having coffee, if that's a part of your dietary protocol, they want you to have coffee with your meal, kind of like I was suggesting with the LMNT that's flavored, but have it with your meal because coffee is a appetite suppressant for most people, right? So before I give you my thoughts on this, what are your thoughts on priming as a way of introducing people into the carnivore lifestyle?
Yeah. Okay, great. So I didn't know anything about priming.
Oh,
But intuitively, Rose,
mhm,
intuitively, when I went carnivore, my body just was like, "Oh, thank God she finally got the message.
mhm,
It's feeding
mhm,
me." And so I craved the meat. And
mhm,
so I just let myself go.
mhm,
I didn't count calories, I didn't weigh things. I just ate everything I wanted to eat meat-wise.
mhm,
And in fact, I went through a thing where, like, I would make lamb chops, and then I would have to actually make a pound of ground lamb too, because it's just so delicious and fatty and yummy, and so I'd have ground lamb with my lamb chops, you know? And so I put on probably, you know, 5 to 8 pounds of weight.
mhm. Okay.
But I didn't worry about it because, I first of all, my clothes never changed. I never felt uncomfortable in my clothes.
Yeah,
So it was just a number on the scale, and I felt so amazing, right?
yeah.
And then what happened is, and at that time, I was so satiated by when I did eat that I would forget to eat, and I'd go hours without eating, because you're just so satiated. And then what happened, Rose, was if I don't know if it was 1 or 2 or 3 months in, but all of a sudden I found myself, like, I'd have the same meal and then I would get hungry. And so I thought, "Oh, that's interesting, like, what's going on?" And so I started looking at, like, which foods, like, which meal I had that would mean, like, "Oh, at 4 hours, I'm hungry again." And so what I've come to learn from watching a number of doctors is that your metabolism revs up, right? So what was happening is my sluggish metabolism, I was feeding all of this great meat, and it was going, well, that's great, and I'm still not gonna do anything with it. Like I'm gonna store it. But when I was feeding it, consistently what it wanted, then it said, okay, now we can light the fires of this metabolism. And so um, I think that's fantastic. So, like, when you do this priming, you should not have any hunger. You might have to remind yourself, I bet it's time to eat, right? But when you start getting hunger again, then your metabolism has revved up because
Okay.
your body's happy. And so I didn't, when I learned that, I was like, oh, thank God, because I thought there was something wrong with me because all these carnivores are talking about being so satiated. And well, then why do I have hunger cues? Well, because your metabolism has now adapted to this wonderful food.
Mhm.
So I will just say I am back to measuring my food and logging it just because I have a history of overeating. Like I don't have a good handle on portion control. And
Mhm.
so knowing that I have to have these 3 meals throughout the day, it helps me make sure I don't go over my target. Um, but yeah, there'll come a day where I will no longer do that. But
Yeah.
as you know, I like Lakeitha. I'm trying
Yeah.
to lose like another 10 pounds of subcutaneous fat.
So let's talk about tracking on our next show. We
Okay.
can go a little bit more in detail on that.
Yep.
So thank you for your thoughts on that. So you did priming pretty intuitively, naturally, without knowing what it was, right? So my thing about priming is I think it's a great idea if people actually need it, right? If there's a nutritional deficit, but I have to say that looking back on my history and how I went after it, I would not recommend it for somebody that's a compulsive overeater,
Right.
somebody that eats food to help with their emotional state, somebody that uses food for entertainment and joy other than what food is meant to be, right? Because it could have some, I feel, some detrimental effects. Like some people think fasting can have some detrimental effects to people that have had eating disorders, but I don't believe that just because of how I use intermittent fasting for myself, right? So it's an experiment of one. But when you say 3 squares, 3 meals, 3 snacks the first week, somebody that doesn't have the off switch, they're going to be throwing up before they realize it's time to, no, before they realize it's time to stop. I can eat up to and beyond 3,000 calories in one sitting and not blink an eye. So if that were me being fed 3 times a day, 3 snacks, well, my off switch doesn't hit until I'm at 3,000 calories. And now you want me to do that 3 times a day. That's well over 10 or 12,000 calories, depending on how I do it. Right. So I always like to bring that up just a little bit, just for people to, think about it. But it sounds like you were in tune with your body and everything was spot on for you, and you didn't worry about the weight gain that came because it eventually left once your body said, "Oh, this is how she's doing things now." And there's a trust thing going on, right? So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay. Anything else you want to add to priming?
No, I would just say I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
If you're coming from disordered eating, um, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
And so, but
Yeah.
there are like baby bumpers that you can put around priming if you still want to do it,
Mhm.
like about the emotional eating.
Yeah.
Like, there's a checklist you can go through to like validate whether it's really time to eat or not, or if you're eating out of old habits or boredom or whatever. But
Girl,
it it
if
needs
you give me a checklist and my food is on the stove like it is now, like my sausages are on the stove and my steak is ready to be popped into the pan. If you give me a checklist after we finish this call at 4 o'clock and my mind is like, girl, you're gonna be sitting down by 4:15, a checklist to see if no, 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 no. It would never work for me. It might work in the aftermath, but not prior.
yeah.
It's just like going to get that hit or that drink or whatever you're into. It's like, you can put some things in place, some bumpers in place, but when you're at that point of getting ready to indulge or, you're stressed out or whatever it is, all you see is what you're seeking, I think. So, yeah, priming it can be a really touchy subject, very, very
Mhm.
sensitive, and you have to know yourself best before considering that protocol, I think.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, Kim, do you have a random fact? Or can I go first? Because yours
You go
sounds
first.
your
Yeah.
blue methylene thing, girl, my
Yeah.
mind is gonna be like, okay, Kim, I'm trying to follow. So yeah, let me okay, so when we do random fun facts, it's just that. It doesn't have to have anything to do with exercise, diet, fitness, the carnivore way of life. It's just to bring some energy and some fun facts, right? So, okay, so do you know that term apple pie, as American as apple pie? You know that term, right?
I
Which
do.
is
Yeah.
it just simply means the average American and whatnot. So apple pies nor apples originally came from America, you guys. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So apples are native to Asia. And the first recorded recipe for apple pie was actually recorded in England. Oh my gosh. And then, of course, in the US, Washington State, hey, hey, is the largest apple producing state in the US. And then, okay, Kim, I'm going to ask you this, but you probably know because you're a smarty like that. What what is the largest apple producer in the world? Not the US, but in the world.
Um, gosh, I don't know.
If you
I
did know, what would your guess be?
um somehow like New Zealand is coming to mind, but no, I have no idea.
Okay, give me one more guess, Mama. One more, because I'm bouncing with this information.
Well, I know that the apple actually came out of the Middle East, like so like Persia or something. So but I don't know that they now have the climate to do it. I have no idea, Rose. I just don't know.
Okay. So
Tell me. Tell me.
according to data from 2020, it's China. But I had read about that maybe 2 years ago as well. So, but yeah, China. I'm like, what? Apples coming from China along with other things? Okay. Washington grown. If I ever eat apple, it will be Washington grown.
That's right. That's right.
All right, Kim. All right. I hope I stumped you. So you
You
go on
did.
with your information, girlfriend.
Okay, so I follow a young guy who's battling stage 4 liver cancer, and he is brave, bravely posting daily what he's going through, and he is doing so in the hopes to help other people who are going through stage 4 cancer. Obviously, he's following a carnivore diet. He's following Professor Seafried's protocol to the best he can. It's expensive and it's hard. He's in Canada. But one of the things he's using is something called methylene blue. And there's been very promising results for cancer patients with this. So essentially, what this methylene blue does is it helps the mitochondria function really well. And so, as you know, when you're going through chemo and all the stuff to battle cancer, you're tired and fatigued, and that's a result of your mitochondria being taxed by the system that the poison that's trying to kill the cancer. So he mentioned methylene blue, and I didn't think much of it, but I was curious. So of course I went on the internet to find out more about it, and that basically told YouTube to send me videos about methylene blue. And so
What we
so
just
I
talked about, yeah. Getting fed, yeah.
exactly. And so I did consume a few of these videos, and apparently this substance has been it's synthetic, but it's mineral based. So they took a bunch of minerals and they synthetically combined them such that they make a very specific molecule. And initially it was made, it's a synthetic dye for blue jeans. So this is in the late 1800s. Somebody said, "I'm gonna make a better dye for these blue jeans." And
Wow.
they made this substance, and then they noticed that, it did a marvelous job in combating malaria and other diseases. And so then there was this medical study of it, and it turns out that it's marvelously good for you. And in fact, the FDA, it's like the first drug that the FDA ever approved back in 1890 or something,
Ooh.
because they didn't have penicillin, they didn't have any of these things to, and so they needed something that was going to help, you know, people with infectious diseases and open wounds and stuff like, and it to this day it's in every hospital you walk in. They have it on hand at all times because it's great for cyanide poisoning. It's great for several purposes. So this has been a medical a medicine, an approved medicine in use that has helped, you know, millions of people for the last 110, 20, 30 years. So it's not, you know, some wackadoodle thing. And now they are basically studying it for like cancer and things like that. And so, as I mentioned, I don't know if I mentioned last time, but I had some bouts of insomnia when I
Because of
traveled
your travel, yeah.
because I can't be sure of the quality or how the foods are prepared. And I do believe that the insomnia had something to do with seed oils. And so I think I might experiment, Rose, on
Okay.
myself. And I think I have bought it. I'm waiting for it to get delivered. And I'm going on to Alaska in August. And on that trip, you know, I think I will have a little bit of this after my meal in the evening
Okay.
if I can't be sure that they haven't, you know, used something that could keep me up. So I'm just going to do a little experiment because
Okay.
I think that's what's happening is whatever those contaminants are, the seed oils or
Mhm.
whatever in the food, it basically mucks up my mitochondria. That's that's I think what's happening with the insomnia is so I'm gonna try. You know, like I said earlier, this is we all have to try and find
Yeah.
solutions, but it's, you know, I've done my research. It's very
Mhm.
safe. It's very
Okay.
well, and I'm buying it from doctors. You know, so
Buying it not from Amazon, right?
right, right.
Well, I can't wait to hear back because I'm always looking for little more tips and tricks, whether they stick or not, but I'm always willing to challenge myself with something new. So I'm excited to hear back from that in the fall, probably, right? If
Yeah,
you're using it in August. Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. And maybe we can include some case studies in the show notes or something like that.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
like, I can send you a link
Yeah.
to the video with the doctors that explain how this work. It's amazing.
Okay.
It's a really good short video. And then I can also give you a link to the gentleman who's battling cancer. But
Girl, give me
if you want,
all the information because that would help a sister out. Okay.
okay,
Yeah,
you
that'll
got
help
it.
out. Yeah. All right. So, Kim, as we get ready to close out, I want to ask you, are you working on anything specifically this week? Because we're on Monday this week, or are you doing anything special for the 4th of July?
Yeah, I don't have any plans for 4th of July. It's kind of mellow around here. It's nice because the dog we had before, the one we have now, had a terrible time with fireworks, and in fact, we used to have to go up to Canada so she wouldn't be terrorized. And so fortunately, knock wood, Dory still is fine with fireworks. Um, So at least we don't have that worry of like our,
Okay.
the dogs suffer so much with the fireworks. I think it's so sad. Do you have a lot of fireworks down where you are?
We do. Our first dog, him, we used to have to board him on the 4th just so, it would just because it was in an area that was kind of away from the city and stuff, we would have to board him. This girl here, nothing phases her. She might
Oh,
just
good.
kind of pick her head up, but she's not startled by it. But then if there's wind while we're walking, she's looking behind. So every dog is different, and it is
Yeah.
unfortunate that people choose to use fireworks in areas that they shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so this week I am focused on my freezer. I am bound and determined to get that defrosted this Friday because
Yeah.
there's so many deals on meat that I've had to pass up because I don't want to add more meat to it when I'm trying to get it empty so I can
Yeah.
defrost it. So the plan is, I've got a bunch of steaks in the fridge right now that are going to get cooked up, and I've made room in another freezer, like the regular fridge freezer. I'm going to get as much of the chest freezer meat into there,
Okay.
and then I've got 3 ice chests ready to go. But yeah, it's supposed to be 81 on Friday.
Yeah.
So that's my plan, is to defrost the freezer on Friday.
Rock on, sister.
So
Yeah. Summer's here. I think it's here, Kim. The 4th, it's here. It better stay too.
finally, finally.
Yeah. So this week, I just have a lot of busyness, a lot of people that I'm talking to virtually and then we're actually meeting up this week in
I
person
know.
to discuss some of the things that I have that I want to look forward to in the future. And I hope Kim will be a partial ride or die
You got it.
in that journey. And I have actually, Kim, 4 calls tomorrow.
Oh, wow.
4 calls tomorrow, and then one girl that I've been in touch with, I go, okay, I can do a call tonight at 9 when I get in from class, right? And so I was supposed to have my granddaughters on Tuesday at 2 into Wednesday, and I finally had to call my daughter and say, hey, is it possible for me to swap, Tuesday for Wednesday? And so I'll pick them up after I visit with you. I'm like, I'm
Oh,
on my
okay.
way. Let's go. Yeah. It'll be a better arrangement of time and quality
Okay.
time with them, right?
Yeah.
And then on the 4th, me and a couple of friends are doing 4 miles on the 4th in Stillicum, the town of Stillicum. So I do that
Oh,
every
great.
year.
Yeah.
And that's about it. So hopefully next Monday I'll show up rested and not exhausted.
Yeah. No chance of that. You work so hard, Rose.
Right. Right. But you're going to help me
Yes.
brainstorm because I have like these, just to give you a heads up, I have like these 2 big calendars with stickies because I'm a
Oh, good.
very visual person. And it's not going to be anything that surprises you. Don't get me wrong.
Oh,
It
I'm
has
not
to do
worried.
with women 50 and older, the carnivore lifestyle, and
Yeah.
things that we're already discussing. All right, guys, I want to say thank you for joining us on this episode. We really appreciate those of y'all that have commented or that have as yet to comment. I'm Rose AJ Coates, Carnivore Girl for Life, a coach, a health, life, and fitness coach, and who has been through the struggle. And now I'm on the other side. And Kim, who you be, girlfriend?
Ditto. I am someone who's been through the struggle and is on the other side and eating meat.
There you go. All right. Till next time, my friends. Take care. All right. All right, Kim. Talk to you Wednesday. All right.
Yep. See you
Bye-bye.
Wednesday.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.